How do you think remote work could impact scaling culture?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things there, and one is definitely around the tools, uh, and we've seen, I'd say, well, for a long time now, but let's just say in the last decade or so, there's been uh, a lot of technology developed to help people work remotely. And when I was at IBM, for example, we ran global projects with hundreds of people across the world and in all different time zones, and it had a lot of challenges for sure. But the way we made it work is because we had tools. And in fact, one of the projects I was working on there was actually developing tools to help companies do that. So that was actually what we were developing. So we were using the stuff ourselves. So having the tools is really helpful and I think necessary now. And of course, what we've seen now since the pandemic is that everyone is going crazy now, trying to, like, for the companies that weren't already there, they're now having to figure out, okay, what do we need and how do we use it? And then the other thing is the whole culture around, I think it's the trust factor, right? Like, a lot of organizations never wanted to allow people to work remotely or to work at home because they don't trust that people are, actually working, right? And Yeah, in the end, the only thing that really matters is the impact you're having and the success that you're having or not having. It doesn't really matter how much, what hours you're putting in and so forth. I mean, obviously, there's a sort of a core responsibility that you have to be there for your team, to interact with your team at certain hours and so forth. But apart from that, the only thing that really matters is the results that you're getting. And so that's a pretty hard thing for some organizations to take that step if they've been sort of stuck in the past. Now, what's been interesting, of course, now they've been forced to do it. They've, there's been no choice about it, and so now people are working at home, and now they've had to make this jump. And now what's going to be interesting is that at some point there will be the option that they could, in theory, go back to the office, right? Uh, but will that really happen? Because there are clearly benefits. And I think in some cases now organizations have seen, oh, we didn't think this was going to work, but it actually does work.
Hmm. And what about when you have a company like Shopify, for example, which growing very quickly, fantastic product platform, customer service, and will continually have, like you said, so many different jobs to be done for the consumer and so many different more potential product lines or product areas. How do you really maintain a culture of innovation and experimentation when you have so many different product lines to go into or opportunities?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's interesting for a company like that is trying to figure out at what point they actually stop, right? Like, going back to this scaling issue. So here's the thing that I think that's interesting. Like, in business, we always talk about growth. That's what everybody wants. Everybody wants their startup to be like this huge success, and that they have thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, whatever, of people and customers and dollars and so forth, right? Uh, but what's the point at which it's actually not a good thing? Um, and now, of course, some organizations start to do things like, okay, well, let's spin it off into a separate company, right? And there's been all these experiments that have taken place in some organizations with, okay, let's spin it out, let's spin it back in, right? Let's bring it back in. So I think for a lot of these organizations, it's going to be figuring out when to actually stop and say, actually, you know what, this is actually, like, we're actually starting to go in a way that's actually not helping us. And so in a way, it's great, it's exciting to grow, uh, but it's not necessarily a good thing. And I think even culturally, uh, and this is nothing specific to Shopify, but like every company, every small company, as they grow, things will change, right? And for some people, those changes are positive, and for some people they're not, right? So some people will leave an organization just because, you know what, it's not that it's just not for me, right? Like, I was happy working at a small company. I'm not as happy now working in a larger company. I like working at smaller companies, or I like working in smaller teams, right? So some people are always going to leave because of that kind of a situation.